Welcome back to Scrappy Sports Talk. Today we're going to be doing our NFL Wildcard weekend predictions, and today is going to be the Saturday games. So we're going to start with the 10-6 Colts versus the 11-5 Texans. Both teams are 9-2 since Week 6, which is tied for the best record in the NFL in that time span. Indy is the third team in the Super Bowl era to start the season 1-5 and make the playoffs, while the Texans are the sixth team to start 0-3 and make the playoffs. The Colts are ranked first in third down offense, converting 49% of the time, and the Texans are 20th in third down defense, allowing 40% of those attempts to be converted into first downs. So the Texans, Deshaun Watson, his stats for the 2018-2019 regular season, he's averaging 260.3 pass yards per game, on 68.3 completion percentage, with 26 touchdowns and only 9 interceptions, with a passer rating of 103.1. The Texans have had trouble keeping Watson protected. He has been sacked 62 times this season, which is the most by a quarterback to make the playoffs in a Super Bowl era. DeAndre Hopkins has had a very strong case to win the argument over who is the best wide receiver of the 2018-2019 season. He has had the most receptions without a drop in a season since Pro Football Focus started charting drops in 2007 at 115 receptions. In the Week 14 matchup between the division rivals, the Colts did a good job of slowing down Hopkins. He only caught 4 passes for 36 yards and 1 touchdown. But the tight ends ended up having a good day to make up for the lack of production from Hopkins. They combined for 11 catches for 151 yards. Now for the Colts, Andrew Luck's stats for the 2018-2019 regular season. He has had 287.1 yards per game on 67.3 completion percentage and threw 39 touchdowns and 15 interceptions with a passer rating of 98.7. The Colts went from worst to first in terms of allowing sacks. Last year, they allowed the most sacks at 56, and this year have allowed the fewest at only 18. T.Y. Hilton averaged nearly twice as many receiving yards versus the Texans this season at 157 than he did versus all other opponents at only 79.7. Hilton led the NFL in receiving yards in the second half of the season. In the 2 meetings during the regular season, the Colts have sacked Watson 12 times. All right, so there's a little bit of information. With all that being said, I'm choosing the Colts to win this game, which would put them against the Kansas City Chiefs next week. Now we have the 10-6 Seahawks versus the 10-6 Cowboys. This matchup sees the Seahawks with the number 1 ranked rush offense and the Cowboys with the number 5 ranked rush defense. Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson are the only players in NFL history with 30-plus wins and fewer than 30 interceptions in their first 3 seasons. The Seahawks beat the Cowboys earlier in the season, 24-13. That game took place in Seattle, and the Cowboys did not have Amari Cooper. For the Seahawks, Russell Wilson has averaged 215.5 yards per game while completing 65.6% of his passes and throwing 35 touchdowns and 7 interceptions with a passer rating of 110.9. Wilson is only the 3rd player in NFL history to throw for 35-plus touchdowns on fewer than 450 pass attempts. 30 of the 36 teams to make the postseason with the NFL's number 1 ranked rushing offense have advanced to at least the divisional round. And since 2008, Super Bowl winning quarterbacks are 11-1 on Wildcard weekend versus quarterbacks without a playoff win. For the Cowboys, they've won 7 of their last 8 heading into the playoffs. Dak Prescott has averaged 242.8 pass yards per game while completing 67.7% of his passes and throwing 22 touchdowns and 8 interceptions with a passer rating of 96.9. The Cowboys have 12 wins in prime time with Dak at QB, which is the most in the NFL since Dak entered the league in 2016. Amari Cooper has averaged the most receptions per game at 5.9 and receiving yards per game at 80.6 of any player to change teams midseason since 1980. Zeke Elliott has led the NFL in rush yards per game for the third straight season and led the Cowboys in targets at 95 and receptions at 77. Elliott also took the NFL's rushing title for the second time in his career. With all that being said, I think that Russell Wilson's experience in the playoffs will propel the Seahawks to a win over the Cowboys during Wildcard weekend.